Well. Holy shit, my face is not there and the nuke is already going off. What the hell is going on right now? Looks like I fucked this whole thing up right from the get-go, but a very interesting day today as Bitcoin heads up above 6 digits very quickly. Let me just turn on the damn light over here. Hold on. There we go. I don't look like such a fucking cave vampire at the moment. Well, actually, the light doesn't really help either way, it's fucked, man. Either way, it's fucked. There's no help in this face. Anyways, crypto peasants no longer, says MGTOW by Logic. We are no longer peasants, except for myself, looking for bids lower. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what the old hodl bags are for. Anyways, plenty to talk about today with Bitcoin heading into, well above $100,000, which is certainly, certainly a fucking aggressive move. I'll say that. But goddamn, man. There are plenty damn things to be speaking about. Krown will take you down like a gorilla on meth. Wait, what? I see a lot of political comments here. A lot of people loving Trump, a lot of people hating Trump. As always, there's a love-hate relationship. You're either on one side, you can't be in the middle. And of course, this at the end of the day is indeed a Wendy's as well. Insta-nuke, yeah, fuck it all. We're sending it all to zero once again. And I see Mr. Filson. Good morning to you, man. Kook Rider on Twitter. Good morning, sir. Up only. Please, no downside stats. Yeah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, like, yes, Bitcoin is going up here. And, you know, I've been saying this for a while now. Bitcoin can definitely go to like 120 to 125,000 bucks. But for fuck's sake, I'd feel a lot better about this, about this market cycle continuing if it just spent a little bit more time consolidating. And of course, when we look at Bitcoin right here, I do want to point out for the volume nerds out there of the world, I mean, I'm surprised that people aren't shouting from the fucking roofs about this, but even on this move, volume continues to go down despite Bitcoin more or less being at all-time highs as far as a closing basis does go. Yes, it does go, or yes, it was a little bit higher, about 110,000 bucks. But when I see something like this, and when I see what a lot of things look like, especially on the higher term time frames that we've been looking at throughout this past week, it's like I really don't want to be looking for a significant continuation to new highs from here. And if it does happen, it just makes me think that this market cycle again very likely ends before the end of Q3. End of Q3 obviously puts us into the end of September. So with the way that things are looking right now, let's assume that Bitcoin does continue to, I guess, new all-time highs like from here with any sort of a major pullback. Again, that is the assumption. I'd be very confident in saying I really think that this market cycle ends somewhere between July, like middle of July, and let's say end of September, or maybe even middle of September, something like that. Keep in mind the last major massive macro low, well, maybe not macro low, but the last most important low that we did see was of course August 5th of last year, 2024. That was this massive red dildo right here on this humongous volume dildo as well. And a lot of the time you do see sort of anniversary type effects from these sort of dates. So do we see a bottom from last year in August on the 5th, and then we see a top in August 5th over here? Perhaps yes. I mean, that kind of would work with the old timing, but I suppose time shall tell. Time shall tell. Jacob Wilson says, what would Buffett do? Probably go and eat. No. Drink a Coke. No. Do some Coke. No. He would actually be cash, because that literally is what he is right now. He's mostly cash, which is, I don't know if that's as concerning as a lot of people make it out to be, because it seems to me, or it doesn't seem to me, like he's literally come out and stated that he's going to be stepping down. And if he's stepping down from his firm, I mean, maybe they just want to start with a clean slate. I don't know. And he hasn't. I mean, no one's perfect, obviously. Of course, not even myself. But Buffett also not perfect. He's certainly more perfect than myself, is what I'm trying to say. And but for the past, I think 10 years or so, there has been chatter from other, I guess, financial experts saying, is Buffett losing it? Is Buffett done? Is he on his way out? I mean, he is on his way out, obviously, from the actual business, but is he not the investor that he once used to be? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'd have to hear him speak about, his general ideas as to why he's mostly cash. But I would guess it's probably just to start with a clean slate as soon as he steps down and the next guy takes over. You want to have it be your own thing. I can totally understand that. He would eat McDonald's. Does he eat McDonald's? I know that he drinks Coke, but if he's also eating McDonald's as well, I mean, that is just really impressive to be living that long and eating that shittily. Same thing with Trump as well. I mean, I think Trump eats fast food, and he has more energy than me. It's fucking crazy. It's actually crazy. Crypto Ricardo says Buffett is not mostly cash. He took huge profit on huge positions, and so the dollar value of that profit taking is at a record high, but his equity portfolio remains much bigger than his cash position. Let's see if we can actually verify that. I don't know. I'm just parroting talking points that I've seen on the old interwebs, and you know how accurate that can be. So let's see. I'll bring it over to ChatGPT here, and let's ask, is Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway mostly cash or equities right now? What is his most weighted position? All right, let's see. Let's see what the old ChatGPT has to say. Although ChatGPT does sometimes lie, I can tell you that ChatGPT with math is not good. Like, it's really not good, actually. It will lie with certainty to you. But let's see. At the end of 2024, Berkshire Hathaway, under Warren Buffett's leadership, held a record $334 billion in cash and cash equivalents. Okay, but what is it relative to his stock positions? Nearly doubling his cash position from the previous year. Okay, that is. It does seem like, quite aggressive. This substantial increase in cash holdings indicates a cautious approach, with Buffett opted to hold cash rather than invest in what he perceives as overvalued markets. I kind of see that as well. Although I am myself mostly in the stock market. Despite the significant cash reserve, Buffett has emphasized that the substantial majority of Berkshire's assets remain invested in equity. So yes, who was that? I need to give them credit for calling that out, because that's actually really cool to see. Yeah, Crypto Ricardo. Yeah, he's right. Good correction right there, man. So yeah, he is still substantially, like the substantial majority of his portfolio is invested in equities, predominantly American companies. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So it looks like the internet has struck in once again, and thank God for ChatGPT. Hopefully it's not lying about this one. But regarding Berkshire's equity portfolio, Apple remains the most significant holding, even after reducing the stake by nearly 50% in 2024. Jesus Christ, man. They really love their Apple, I guess. Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm glad that you spoke up, because I'd not actually heard that myself. Anyways, let's see what else we got in the comments over here. We'll get into the old crypto charts soon enough. I'm actually again curious to see what some of the altcoins look like today, or the old shit coins, I should say. In fact, you know what? Let's just go down the list right now. I see Ethereum has finally made its way into the $2,000 territory. Holy shit! I thought I was going crazy there, saying that this thing has to go to fucking 2,000 plus at some point. Finally, it fucking has, and I think that it does go higher. I think that it does go to at least a 200 simple on the daily here. So I don't know, somewhere mid 2000s seems about right to me. Does it continue upwards and onwards from there? Who the hell knows? But still, I guess tradable. I mean, that is from where we're kind of looking at it at around 1800. Yeah, it's a pretty decent move. Like nearly 50%, close to somewhere around there. Christian Mella on YouTube says volume Bitcoin from, I think you mean August 2024, not OU, or at least, okay, I'm not sure if I'm tripping out because of lack of sleep or not, but OUG, I'm guessing you mean August, because there is, at least as far as I'm concerned, not a month called OUG, but from August 2024 to November 2024, it was going down too. Yeah, but think about what was going on during that segment. Bitcoin was in a consolidation, so you would expect something like that. I mean, that does make sense. So yeah. Anyways, Zach Street says, is Ethereum dead? It seems to me like it finally has found its little pumpola here, finally catching up. In fact, I was looking at the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio today, because I would like to trade my Ethereum for the old Bitcoins here. And I do think that this one bounces a lot higher. I mean, shit, at some point, you kind of expect at least a rally to the 382 level, and maybe even the 50% level. And hold on, let's make this a little bit less nice. But even then, I mean, that's a humongous move from where things are at right now. Another 50% move plus just to the 382 level. And you expect at least a bounce there, even on the most bearish of bearish trends, once it's found, in this case, a local low. 50% level is also within striking distance as well. And that would be a 2x from where it's at right now. So whether it's a 50% move or a 2x move from where it's at right now, I don't really have strong opinions, but generally, should work its way higher again. Anytime you see one of these damn things getting back towards, major macro lows like this, like it's almost always going to have a major bounce. I'm not calling like a major macro reversal here. Obviously, this chart is, fucking ugly as hell. But even a chart that's ugly as hell, like we're probably going to see on most shitcoins today, they can still bounce quite a fair bit. Anyways, Nito Cho on YouTube says Ethereum looks like it's forming a massive double bottom on the monthly chart. I guess that would be the bullish view of it, but I don't really see double bottoms work out too often in my own opinion, in my own experience. I do see big bounces from regions like this, but very rarely do they hold. But yeah, I mean, again, whichever way you cut it, kind of have to be looking for this bounce to continue from here. I would imagine, in the following months, it's got to reconnect with some of these major moving averages. Again, the quarterly is actually at around or just above 3.25 million. So if it got somewhere around there, that's kind of where I'd be like, all right, probably the lion's share of this move is already done. Anyways, let's see what else we got on the old YouTubes here. I see Mr. Van Duysen. Good morning to you. Danny Boy says, Trump told everyone to buy today. Did he really? Holy shit. Check out the video. He said they are going to rock. Oh my God. this like everything in my brain that says, be cautious is firing off like tenfold when I see shit like that. Like, I mean, obviously, that has not been the right move coming into today, but Jesus, man, you have to have these sort of filters in order to survive long term in these markets, because that is just, oh God, that makes me just fucking, I don't like that sort of talk. I really don't like that sort of talk, but of course I can be wrong on it. Of course I can be wrong, but Jesus Christ, man, that just feels really, really, really aggressive coming from the president. Like, oh man. What's up, Durian Robmatan? Good morning to you as well. We got Nikkei, we got Base, we got a lot of people who really hate Trump as well in the comment section. Fair enough, man. It's like there's no middle ground with Trump. You can't just be like, there's some things I like about him and there's some things I don't like about him. That's honestly how I feel about him. It's like some things that he does, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Some things, or especially like the way that he talks, I don't like. If you watched the event yesterday with the UK and US trade announcement deal, it was really, really, really painfully clear. And I'm wondering if anyone else caught this as well. But to me, it was very, very painfully clear that when the English ambassador started to speak, he was not fucking happy. He was not fucking happy about this trade deal, and he was basically pushing back on what everyone else in the room was saying. Everyone else in the room was like, this is so great, this is so amazing, this is such a big deal, this is the biggest thing since sliced bread. And then he's like, yeah, we got a lot of work to do, and this was kind of a pain in the ass guy. I don't know, maybe I'm completely off base here, but I'm curious if anyone else did catch that, because it seemed really, 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 really aggressively negative. Like I could feel his hate just burning off of him. So fair enough. I mean, maybe something else is going on over there. Dark Slayer says, don't ever come to the UK. It's shit. And emoticons. Yeah, man, I've been hearing, it's really crazy, man. Like people, especially English people, they talk the most shit about England or Britain or whatever. I really don't know the difference, to be honest, but, anytime I speak with a British person, they always say, just don't go there. Just don't go there. It's too dangerous. It's too shitty now. It's too dirty as well. I haven't found one British person who's like, yeah, come to London. It's going to be great. At least for like the past few years. Just fucking bad. A bunch of numbers on YouTube says, yeah, reading the tone. Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. It was like some good old English, super dry sarcasm that he was saying. And I was like listening to that. I'm like, Jesus, man, like what the hell actually went on over here? It's all true, says Dark Slayer. It seems like the British people in our community also agree. Jew-Man also says that's untrue. It's not true. Oh, really? Okay. Well, curious. But aren't you French, sir? Maybe I'm wrong on that one. The curry in London sucks. Fair enough. I'm definitely middle groundish, slightly more positive on him, but also think he's 1000% better than the alternative. That's exactly where I'm at as well. It's like, look, when I look at the alternatives that the U.S. had in the past election, it's like, look, if you have to choose between the two and there's no like third option and there's, and none of that bullshit, okay, yeah, I'm going to choose Trump 10 out of 10 times, but it doesn't make him a perfect candidate by any stretch of the imagination. What about the pi cycle top indicator? Well, if you're going off of the pi cycle top indicator, then it has, well, most certainly not fired off yet. We can check in on it for a moment, but I'm going to assume that it hasn't. like it can't have fired off by this point. Yeah, I mean, price is so fucking far away from that white moving average there that this if you're going to go off of this one historically, which I really have a hard time seeing this one play out, to be honest with you, but if you're going off of the history for this one, all tops have come in well above the white moving average. And as of right now, that white moving average is all the way at $158,000 or so. And again, it comes like decently above that. So you'd have to probably add on another, I don't know, somewhere between like 30 to maybe even more than 50%. So that would put you where? Like well into the 200s. Personally, I just have a hard time seeing that, but it doesn't mean that it can't happen at the end of the day. Of course, we can adjust along the way, but I personally am much more defensive against this. Like one of the things that I kept a big note about in the last cycle is to, once we get to a certain point in the cycle, I don't want to be aggressive taking trades anymore. I don't want to, I don't want to be putting significant risk on. I just mostly want to be holding to my spot holdings if it makes sense, on a pullback like 20 to 30%. But I don't want to be risking, the money that I made. And over the past couple of years, since 2023, it's basically been straight up this whole way through. We've really had no major issue, especially on this channel, with being generally bullish during that time, even during most of 2024. But coming into 2025, I was saying, hey, I want to be cautious in Q1. I think there's going to be a major top, maybe even a macro top. It looks like that's probably not going to work out like that with a macro top, but obviously it was a major top. Now I think, things can continue on into Q3, but I don't want to be aggressive here personally. I want to keep what I've made over the past couple of years and turn more into, honestly, a long-term investor at this point. That's just me, but I understand that a lot of people have different ideas on everything. That's all good too, but, just understand the sort of long term of this. Lape Snape on YouTube says, you can hate Trump, you can love him, but as one person said, he is bringing chaos and it is good for the old system to crumble. I want to see the result first before I put a verdict on it, man. But it seems like there is potential. There is potential because the old system, as you said, it's certainly imperfect. And I'm sure that with this new idea, there will also be imperfect things as well. But I'm definitely open to it. Like I don't want to say like this is the fucking best thing to do ever, or this is the worst thing to do ever until I actually see the result. Like, I mean, he's only been in office for what, a few months now, something like that. I want to see at least a couple years before I start to, pass judgments and whatnot. I know that a lot of people are not going to like that, but it is what it is, man. These things take time, and I think it's a little bit premature to be making any sort of like real assessment on what's going on. But like I said, there's a lot of things that he's doing that I think are in the right direction. There's some things, mostly in the way that he speaks, that I don't necessarily like, that I don't think are in the right direction. But hey, we shall see what the result is, and that will essentially govern my opinion. Henna Sohail on YouTube says, what do you think caused a giant move after 4 p.m.? Do you see any pullback from here since there is no liquidity on the upside? Is there no liquidity on the upside? I don't know if that's true or not, but do I think that things are going to pull back? I mean, at some point, yes. Like we have so many signals that do suggest it's a time to be more on the cautious side rather than just fucking gung-ho bullish. But just as we've been saying for the past few days, as long as Bitcoin is above the price action pivot, it's not bearish. In fact, it's actually bullish. I mean, as evident. Now, I couldn't have told you it's going to go up like this much in such a short time. But at the end of the day, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, and this trend just continues to be your friend to the upside, I suppose. So, while I've had my ideas about pullbacks, while I've had my ideas about traps, at the end of the day, the price action pivots has been the truth. It's been the truth filtering those sort of potential corrective ideas until we actually see Bitcoin conclusively close below the most recent price action pivot, which has just steadily been moving up. I mean, really the whole rally, obviously, but especially in the past couple of weeks when Bitcoin was putting in this consolidation right here. So I would say the same thing right now as well. As long as Bitcoin's above it, which is very, very far away from current price action, which is just not helpful at the moment. But as long as Bitcoin's above it, it's like hard to certainly be bearish, but even looking for like a realistic pullback. But I imagine it's gonna once again shift to the upside, probably probably by this weekend. And I imagine it's going to align with essentially the low of yesterday, which is about $97,000. So that'll become like a big marker on the charts that as long as Bitcoin's above, okay, it's in a relatively strong position. But you come back down below there, and yeah, I do think that I get my corrective move, maybe not all the way down into the 80s now. I think worst case scenario to the downside would maybe be like 91, 92, something like that. But we'll see. I mean, have to play it by ear, because right now it's more likely to spike these highs again than it is to come down from exactly right here. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Anyways, Mr. Van Duysen says, you want to tear my asshole? Well, not really, actually. Actually, not really. Gunleaf on YouTube says, sauna, do you prefer fire sauna or electric? Of course, we prefer fire sauna because that is like the traditional method. But we have a electric sauna just because it's more convenient, really. Like a fire one, it takes really long to get going. You got to have wood, you got to have fire and shit. Like Elsa's parents have one, and it's really, really nice to go to. But yeah, when we're in, when we're in our apartment and when I want to use it basically every day, it's like, I got to get it started soon. I don't want to be fucking smelling like burning wood and smoke and shit like that. So yeah, electric's probably just more, or it's not probably, it is more convenient. So yeah. Gen X says the rally has barely started. Bull moon next week. Could be. I mean, this last bear mood certainly failed to all hell. So we shall see if the bull moon shall force things up even more so. Did you watch Mobland? I have not seen that, actually. Context, Krown, I need to toilet. Fair enough. Go tear yourself a new bunghole then. That is the best place to do it. Hurry up, Krown, I need to dump. Fair enough. Jacob Wilson says, charts are looking euphoric. Yeah, I agree. But again, when you get into regions like this, it doesn't take too much to spike these highs once again. And even though it doesn't look like much on the charts, that is still a multi-$1,000 move from where things are at right now. And if things are going to pull back, I actually would be expecting a spike up here first, and then a pullback to emerge. So we shall see. We shall see. Even the short-term or relatively short-term momentum oscillators, they are still remaining upright here as well. We still fail to see the daily stochastic oscillator even come down below the critical zone, which was kind of a preemptive signal for myself. This one's going to very likely cross again to the upside today and continue up again. But here's the thing, when you get into regions like this, it's very unlikely to stay there for that much longer. You can look at past times. You can see that this is very, 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 very consistent with, the sort of maximum amount of time that it remains within that critical zone. So that's why I think one more push up here, but at that point, you're probably going to, or not probably, you're almost guaranteed to get some sort of divergence, and then a pullback does emerge, and that pullback can happen extremely fucking fast. So that's why personally, I want to be more conservative. I want to be more on the defensive here. It is what it is. I understand that there's going to be some people out there who just want to fucking long it to hell, or long it to heaven, I guess. More power to you. I hope it works out for you. But I do think that the easy days of this current market cycle are long gone, and I would not put it out of the question to see like a nice $5,000 dump dildo, seemingly out of nowhere, even if Bitcoin does spike these highs again. It did 2020 for a very prolonged time. I actually don't know what this is in reference to. 95 says some traders say that it's mostly retail buying at this point, maybe indicating a rug pull this summer. I don't know. And I don't know actually even how you tell that anyways. Because I believe at this point, like CME does the most volume, or at least it's like very, very high up on the list. And CME is, it's not really like your traditional retail trader. It's more professional probably than anything. Same thing with, well, maybe to a lesser extent, IBIT as well. But yeah, either which way I cut it, it's like, I don't know how you can really say that with certainty. Anyways, Hash Ribbon says, I mean, in hindsight, it looks like the hash ribbons worked out again. It's like, I feel like such a fucking doofus because back on over here, when Bitcoin did close below by a fucking ball sack hair, I was like, looks like the hash ribbons failed. I think it's going lower. Funnily enough, that whole hash ribbons idea and buy in April was, in hindsight, actually just about perfect. Silly me. Anyways, Hodling Bitcoin says, if the easy Bitcoin market days are gone, then where do you diversify and what asset outperforms Bitcoin? What asset outperforms Bitcoin? I mean, pretty much no assets outperform Bitcoin on the long run, which is why I like to, keep a lot of my, holdings just in spot Bitcoin that I don't touch. I don't do anything. I don't even really have access to it. It's just there. I know it's there. It makes me feel comfortable. And I think that that's probably the best way to handle things, just because with Bitcoin, you do never know. I mean, it can do, Bitcoin can do fucking crazy shit. That's why we love it, right? So I think it's always good to at least have some, not be like fully out. But what I mean by not being aggressive during the less easy times is just not taking like, high leverage trades, especially on altcoins, even on Bitcoin as well. These sort of things. It's like, last year and the year prior, it was very easy to size up big time in these regions right here because, long-term bullish buys, we were pretty confident that we were in a bull market. And when you're in a bull market like that, you can get away with being a little bit more aggressive because the trend is your friend and it's going to bail you out at some point. So just need to kind of survive. But in this area over here, I don't feel the same way, which is why I personally want to be more protective than anything else. Anderson 7 says, you don't have to like the man. Biden sucked even worse. There isn't any politician in DC willing to clean shit up. They had their chance. I mean, probably true. Probably agree with more of that than not. Mr. David says, if you think it's too risky to invest in Bitcoin now, wait till the end of May. I think it will go up. If you invest in 5 to 10 years, you could be a millionaire. I am actually, so that's not an issue. But yeah, when it comes to the long-term view, do you have to invest perfectly? I mean, not necessarily, but we were also saying on this channel back on that April dump for long-term hodls, it's not a bad place to be investing in, especially in traditional markets as well, even though Bitcoin obviously is massively outperforming traditional markets. But if you want me to give you my answer of what I'm doing, again, understand my situation because that may or may not make it relatable, but in terms of not being aggressive, it's not necessarily that I leave Bitcoin. Yes, I still hold Bitcoin, but I want to be diversifying into stonks. I want to be getting some of the names that I've been looking at. That was really the purpose of the early and middle portions of April, allocating a lot there that I was really waiting for honestly a long time, like actually a couple of years since 2023 was my last stock market purchases. And then other than that, I am keeping some money in money markets as well. It's not a ton, but I would say about 20% of my, actually, no, it's not my overall equity. It'd probably be closer to 10% of my overall equity is in money markets right now. Everything else is invested. Whether it be in just some random traditional market ETF, nothing super crazy, or some of these more newer stocks as well. And then of course, Bitcoin, it's pretty much all, between these sort of, these sort of assets. But I do like to keep that cash on the side just in case, if life expenses come up, just in case if we get another opportunity for another one of those, 20% corrective moves, especially in traditional markets. That's what I want to keep that, in the back pocket for. So yeah, man. And again, my sort of vision, especially on these long-term holds, is that they're long-term, is going to be at least for Bitcoin 5 years plus, and for traditional markets 10 years plus. So it is what it is. If you're more of an active trader, then that's just not relatable. It's not, it doesn't really matter to you, obviously. Celtic Crypto says, London is an amazing city. Holy shit, we got one. Fuck yeah, man. Ricardo says, what is your strategy with Intel? Intel is just a company that I like. That's why I bought it. I bought a small position, to be fair, and I did buy it a little bit lower than where things are at right now. But again, my strategy here is to hold for a very long time. I like their processors. That's basic. I like their product. That's basically the idea there. And, looking at this chart, it kind of looks like Ethereum almost, right? Where, it's been under accumulation, obviously a lot longer than Ethereum, since about 2000. So hasn't really done anything since then. But I do look at this on the very high term time frames, like a monthly, like a quarterly, that, it's probably putting in at least a local low here and should rally up towards, I don't know, $40 or so. Do I take profit there or not? Maybe. But again, I really want to be holding these things for many, many years to come. So I'm not really in any rush with these sort of things. Mr. Van Duysen says, no native person likes London. Maybe that was just a visitor, sir. What's the argument with Bitcoin Core, says Jacob Wilson? Yeah, there's been, I've only read a little bit into it. I've only seen one side of it so far, what's going on with Bitcoin Core. There's actually one of the guys in the Discord, he goes by the name Mother now. I don't know why the fuck he goes by the name Mother, but he's actually like pretty well read up on it, and I've been speaking with him about it. But it does seem like there are some potentially rogue Bitcoin Core coders who are trying to do things that I think probably most people wouldn't like. But like I said, I am not a coder myself. I'm not, or certainly not a developer as well. So I'm not qualified to really even analyze like what the hell's going on over there, because I can't verify it myself. It just from a lot of people that I think generally have good ideas, they're kind of sounding the alarm bells right now. Pete Petal says London is okay, for fuck's sake. Are you British though? That's a real question. What's your opinion on Bitcoin dominance? Oh, and London sucks hard. I think Bitcoin dominance still is just an irrelevant chart overall, because whatever shitcoin that you're looking to trade, you're better off looking at it versus the Bitcoin ratio. Now, I'm sure this, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, hey, this got to be the next high right here. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But, several altcoins have been putting in mega fucking massive moves all throughout this current cycle, especially AI, especially memes, these sort of things had their day in the sun. And if you were looking at Bitcoin dominance to judge, when should I get into altcoins? Like, you would have missed out on all of that. And those were the ones that were really the darlings of this market cycle that have gone up, many fold. If you're looking for the, for the old shitcoins to go up, they probably have their day in the sun as well, but I don't think that they're going to, again, I really don't think that most of these things are going to be making new all-time highs. Like, looking at this chart right here, I mean, just pulling out a random one like to be fair, actually, Doggy Coin is an example of probably one of the better altcoins, just because it does make macro cycle higher lows. But let me find something that's maybe less tested. Well, a lot of these are too new that are on my list, so maybe we have to wait till we get some requests, and then I can check it out. As far as individualistic names, because I actually pretty much I think I got rid of like just about everything that is from prior cycles. That is just uninteresting. Soul says SPX 6900. I'm guessing you are of that community. I have a deep respect for Must Stop Murad. He's been in the space for a long time, and he seems like a genuinely good guy. But if you're asking my opinion on this chart, man, I don't think that this thing is I don't think this thing is ever gonna get past its prior all-time high. I can be wrong on it, I can be wrong on many things, of course, but for fuck's sake, man. And also keep in mind, I have zero skin in the game with something like this. So I don't actually really care, but I'll be happy for you, if it does. Is it going to move up more from here? Sure. Can it go like a 2x from here without any real issue? Sure. But am I looking for this one to, to reclaim highs and make new all-time highs? Not in this cycle. And probably most meme coins look like this. I'll just go through a couple of them right now, just because, I'm just pulling up some old long-term names. We got Brett here. Brett was super, super popular not so long ago. And same thing, it can rally up a decent amount from here, 50% move, 2x move, and still just be one massive macro lower high, essentially into a bull trap. What are some of the other memes? The other memes. There was Moo the Bull. Moo the Bull was a big one not so long ago as well. Same shit here. I mean, I'd have a very hard time seeing this thing ever get back above prior all-time highs, but it can go on a pretty impressive and significant rally. Definitely possible. Norco says Murad was behind 3AC. Really? Really? What was he? Are you sure? Are you sure, sir? Because I think you might have him confused with someone else, or maybe I do. But as far as I know, he wasn't a part of that. But again, maybe my brain's breaking on that. I don't know if you can show some evidence or something, that would be cool. But or was he behind the blow up of it, or was he actually on their team? Because I'm quite confident he was not on their team. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, AK47 says, "Hey Krown, how about Butthole Coin? Yes, we need to check out Butthole Coin. BHC is that the ticker?" It is indeed a ticker. Yes, it is. This one's also going back to all-time highs, man. For sure. It's not just gonna make new all-time highs, but it's gonna be going up and making even more new all-time highs after it makes a new all-time high. He was definitely behind a fund that blew up. If he was behind a fund that blew up, I mean, there was many such cases back in 2022, to be fair. But yeah, fair enough. Different fund that blew up. Okay, I see. So. He was one of the guys behind. Do you mean that he was in 3AC or behind their blow up? Because that's, I think, where I'm getting fucked around here. Good morning, Mr. Ignacio. Fart Boy is not winning. Who's Fart Boy? Could you please check out M87? Oh, Jesus Christ. We got the shitcoin request coming already. Anyways, let me adjust this over here. I guess I've already fucked that up, but that's okay. Take a few more sips of this water. I realize I literally, dog and me chart. Yeah, I do want to see some of these shitcoins. Like, it's like, do I think that do these things even make new do these things make new highs if Bitcoin goes to like 120? I still really don't think so, man. I really, really don't think so. Something like this. How far does it have to go? 200% move or so? Fart Boy is a meme coin. Okay, so I'm guessing it's not the same thing as Fart Coin. So let's try. Oh, it is literally a meme coin. All right. Wow. Well, the good news is that it never really had the initial rally, so maybe it gets some sort of an impressive rally. But let's see how fucking down bad is this thing? Oh, only 83.5% off the highs. How much of a move do you need in order to get back to those prior all-time highs? Only a 522% move. Amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing. Anyways, I am going to... Alex on YouTube says, "Hey, Krown, can you chart my mental illness?" Well, I have enough of that myself, sir. Pete, hey, what's up, Peter Underwood? VRA isn't VRA from many cycles ago? I'm almost certain that it is. Let's see, Veracity. Yeah, this thing's from back in 2019. Yeah, I get it. Like, not going back above these highs, but can it get a big bounce? I mean, it has gotten a big bounce already, but can it get even more of a bounce? Sure. That's kind of the allure of these shitcoins right now, but only a 3,710% move to get back to all-time highs. Holy shit. We're going to be rich. I used to see this analysis like all the time on fucking Twitter when I first came into this space in 2017 and 2018. Or really, this was in 2018 because, most things had come significantly off their all-time highs and they looked in some way like this. And then I would see on crypto Twitter or even crypto YouTube, people would just have a chart like this. They'd go take out their measuring tool and they'd go to the most recent bar and then go to the high and be like, "It's fucking programmed. We're gonna be rich," and then draw like a magnet and a rocket ship emoticon. It was great, man. Like fucking genius. Yeah. All right. Let's actually get into some Bitcoin analysis here. John Dude says, "Hey, Krown, you hear that recent research that creatine does fuck all?" I heard that it's not as impressive for actually gaining weight. Like, it doesn't increase your muscle mass, but I don't believe that study disproved that it does increase your power generation, which is what I like it for. And then also the study did not address, assuming again that we're talking about the same one, but it did not address the potential mental benefits as well that have been espoused recently. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you my biggest benefit from creatine is just the amount of shit that comes out of my asshole. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, it comes out like fucking. It's not even soft serve. It's like a slushy. It's like a slushy when I have a little bit too much creatine. All right, Norco says, "Sorry, my memory fucked me. Murad was a CIO of Adaptive Capital." Okay. All right, I'm not going crazy. Holy shit, man. You fucking had me there for like for a few minutes. Okay, you bastard. I'm glad that you redacted that, because that was really that was really bothering me. And greetings from Estonia, our nice little neighbor. Yeah, okay, Adaptive Capital, AC, not 3AC. Got it. They shut down with March crash after massive losses. Do you mean in 2022? Yeah, there were a lot of funds that went belly up during that time. That's also the thing. Like, people treat the smart money or the big money, let's say, as smarter. I mean, that's why it's called smart money, right? But these people are just people, just like you and me. They can blow up their accounts just as easily as you and me as well. It is what it is, man. They got no superpowers. Zach Street says, "Isn't 10G the new 5G for creatine?" Actually, I saw 20G recently. I actually did see 20G recently. But I can't imagine how anyone can do 20G without literally having a water hose coming out of their angus at most hours of the day. I cannot possibly imagine that. Vite Crypto says, hey, Krown, are you a glorious Viking? I wish I was. I live in the land of Finnish Vikings. There actually were some Finnish Vikings. Yeah, I just take five grams of creatine. And I do think that it certainly does help my stamina, my endurance, and my power generation, which I can see from like doing high intensity sport. But, you know, if it comes to just like lifting weights, I don't know if it really matters that much. You gain a few pounds right off the beginning, but, you know, you don't really get to keep those. And it's, you know, it's just water, but it does help. It does help. Yeah, Dr. Mike went into it too. If you're talking about Mike Israetel, yeah, that's the one that I actually listened to. I generally like his takes on just about everything. Mike Israetel, the bald guy, the bald Jewish guy who's looks like a fucking mutant. All right. Yeah, now we got 1,000x leverage in MEXC. Amazing. Just what we needed. That's what this market needs. More leverage. Way more leverage. Fucking leverage your leverage. Anyways, let me get all of these notes in order here. Can start off with the daily. Why not? Hasn't really changed there anyways. Okay. All right. Then we go into, oops. Okay. We don't really need that for now, but we should address this because that does provide potential higher targets actually if Bitcoin does trade a little bit more to the north side. Where's my HPDR? I want that one next. Where actually is it? Okay, there it is. Jesus Christ. And then where is my, yes, this one as well. Okay, so we got that. And then from there, where do we go? Short term. Yeah, short term. Okay, let's see if this is still true because I wrote this morning and perhaps things have changed. Not yet. But I'll give away one piece that I'm probably going to speak about today is the tether dominance chart. The tether dominance chart is now based off of the 200 simple. I don't know if it matters though. It doesn't really seem to play off of it much in history. Hey, what? Why is there? Where did the chart go? Hey, what the fuck? There's more history than this. Oh, okay. You need to go to a higher time frame. All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, this like before I start recording, this also makes me really think that in terms of time, this market just does not have that much more time because once tether dominance gets back down to that blue moving average, you know, the same lows that we saw from March 2024 and more recently in January of 2025, it's like, yeah, I can spend some time there. You can maybe get a little bit of an extension, but you're probably less than 1 month away from the actual high at that point. So again, another thing that really makes me think like, I don't want to be fucking aggressive to the upside in this case. Maybe I end up fucking massively regretting this, but hey, that's what we got experience, you know, guides us in the future. Okay. Iker says one study doesn't disprove it. Yeah, I mean, man, there's so many fucking studies on every goddamn thing. They can pretty much prove whatever the hell they want to prove. It almost comes down to like, what do you want to believe? And I see Bear Nutrition. Good morning to you, man. And Sushi Yum Yums, one fat scoop. I mean, you know, the way that I do it is I put the scoop on my tongue and then I just wash it down with some orange juice. About 10 to 15 minutes later, my stomach starts rumbling, you know, the kind where you're like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. So now I just put it in my water and sip on it a little bit slowly. So ends earlier than September, says Dark Slayer. Says Dark Slayer. I want to see it get down here first, and then I'd say, you know, give it like a month max. So obviously it's not down here, but I would estimate as of right now, that's going to happen sometime between middle of July to end of September, you know, basically sometime in Q3. Unlikely in this quarter, I think. All right, cool. Let us get into it. Okay. In yesterday's video, we highlighted the importance of the tether dominance chart for deciding the current direction or the short-term current resolution for Bitcoin. And in this case, obviously we have seen it break down below the low that we were looking at on yesterday's video from 498. And we have now seen a nice closure below and indeed continuation below as well. It is currently based off of that white 200 moving average, but overall, this does confirm the breakdown. And I do suspect that we will see higher term timeframes follow through as well, like the weekly and the monthly as well here. very likely at least getting down somewhere around the last prior macro lows that we did see in January of 2025. And then of course the year prior in March. And these have correlated with major tops on Bitcoin. So overall, as long as this one is angled to the downside, yes, kind of have to be bullish on Bitcoin. And of course, we did have setups in yesterday's video that were suggesting more upside as well, even though my personal bias is more on the cautious side. And I still think that there is a really good likelihood of like a swift pullback for Bitcoin. But of course, just in the same way of yesterday's video and the day prior, and really the past couple of weeks, as long as Bitcoin is above the daily price action pivot indicator right here, it is bullish and upside is more likely. And there's no downside triggers as long as Bitcoin is, again, above this pivot, which is a point that perhaps many people have misheard me on. But despite my opinion on it, if Bitcoin, as long as Bitcoin's above it, yes, I do have to look for Bitcoin to travel upwards and more. However, if and when Bitcoin does come back down below, that would be my major indication for a much more corrective segment, which I do think would still align for a longer bull market and likely much more higher price targets as well. But for right now, the price action pivot is actually unchanged from yesterday to today. We did see it move up several times in the past couple of weeks, but I imagine coming into maybe Saturday or Sunday, we will see it move up yet again, very likely somewhere around yesterday's low, which is low $97,000 territory. So I would say that would be kind of like a tentative price action pivot. I'm just kind of estimating that it will move up there relatively soon. Anyways, on top of that, we should go over some of those some of those upside targeting models that we were looking at. One of them was, of course, the meta signal setup over here. This is one that we actually spoke about. Like, I think last time was back on over here when Bitcoin first hit 95,000 bucks. This one fired off, of course, at 83,400 almost, and it did have target number 1 at 87,250. Obviously, that one was hit rather quickly. Then target number 2 at 95,000 bucks. Again, that one got hit, feels like a little bit quickly as well. Now, target number 3, which is a lower probability, it is below 30% probability, despite this being, a relatively powerful signal here, a 1.11. It is actually just above $110,000. So, Meta signals has been, it's actually been very, very good this past month or two. But in this case, do I think that things could go even higher than where it's at right now? Yeah, I do think so, because that can also be combined, of course, with the 5-day 5 EMA setup as well. We spoke about this on yesterday's video and several times in past videos as well. And we did see that this one fired off at 83,650, and as of right now, with Bitcoin at 103, I mean, it is getting very, very close to the average winning return trade that we typically get from this one, which if we can show right here, let me just, again, back test this one from 2018 to current times. And we can see in the trade analysis that the average winning trade did return about 30%. Is that something else that we've seen as well? Well, if we add about 30% to that entry, 30% puts you at what? $110,000. So I do think that is kind of like the maximum Boolah hopium for the continuation of this current move. Like I said, I would be really defensive against a pullback because, I do think that one is coming relatively soon, and when it does come, it'll very likely be very, very swift. But can we see a spike further to the upside first before anything else? I think it's definitely possible here. On top of that, we are also looking at the HPDR on the daily time frame for getting some areas of interest in the more relatively short term. That was between about 101,500 to about 103,500. Obviously, Bitcoin did reach its way there. So I would be looking at this as likely to consolidate, over this weekend between about 102 to the downside versus about 104.5 to the upside. But this is still in a posture that, can lead towards short-term continuation here. So, I would be cognizant of that, especially as long as Bitcoin's closing above 102. I mean, this thing can basically spike the prior all-time high and maybe even make a slightly new high at 110. However, with all of this said, I do want to reiterate, and I know I'm going to sound like a fucking fool, but I do want to reiterate that, I really personally do not want to be aggressive during these times. Not only are we kind of deep into this market cycle, we're in year number 3 since the bull market began in about 2023. Yes, year number 3. Yes, okay. My brain almost broke right there. But also many of the things that we've been looking at, they're getting to really critical levels. Yes, they have not fired off just yet. Yes, I know some people are going to absolutely fucking hate what I'm about to say, but It is still there. One, we see that daily stochastic momentum oscillator is deep inside that critical zone. Yes, it still is remaining above the critical zone of 80, which was our trigger or a preemptive trigger for looking for a short-term correction, and it has continued to fail to close below there. Now it is going to be popping back up again, and will be continuing to the upside very likely today, assuming Bitcoin does remain above 101,500. So I do think that an extension of this move is probably more likely than not in the short term, but naturally, it's almost a 100% given that this will create some bearish divergence on whatever new high that Bitcoin does put in. On top of that, we can go to the 2-day time frame. This one's also deep inside that critical zone. The highest level that we've seen in, it's going to be like many years, actually. The highest level that we've seen since October of 2021. October of 2021 was actually on the way of the rally to Bitcoin's last all-time high, actually. Now, it did actually move a little bit higher than that October read, but it did put in that divergence, and that was actually the high of the cycle. The 3-day time frame is also getting way the fuck up here to levels that we have not seen in a long fucking time, and that one continues up as long as Bitcoin's above 102,650. So, these are getting quite close to current price action. It's not going to take too much to force these down. But again, can Bitcoin spike a little bit higher first and then play out a pullback? I think that's probably more likely. But like I've been saying, it's like these are really fucking close. And the 5-day time frame is now getting actually into the critical zone as well. I don't think that this one turns down anytime soon. But hey, just another thing saying, if you're looking for this one to blast on to massively new all-time highs, it might not necessarily be the most like logical thing. Anyways, on top of that, we also do see, if we go back to that tether dominance chart, that tether dominance, which we expect to play inversely of Bitcoin, is basing off of the white 200 simple moving average here. I don't know if it actually matters for tether dominance, because it doesn't really seem to play off of it much in the past. But just pointing out something for a little bit of the short term, just to spend some time maybe diddle daddling around that around that moving average, get a few wicks below, and then put in a bounce and then come back down. I think that is a little bit likely, but on top of this, we can go back to is it right here? Yes. We can go back to our RSI chart as well. And you can imagine that compared to the highs that we saw in November and then again in January, this is, again, undoubtedly going to be creating some divergence at some point. Of course, it can continue some more from here, but whether it gets up all the way to like 80 or whether it stalls out around 75, that's still going to be divergence by the very definition of it. Even if we go to the 5-day time frame, same thing over here as well. It's like it's nearly a guarantee that it will be relevant at some point. Same thing with the weekly as well. Same thing with the monthly here too. Like all of these are kind of setting up for that in a more long-term fashion, But in the short term, can Bitcoin continue a little bit more? Sure. Yes. It's not going to take too much, again, on this rally for that to occur. And then, of course, the last one that I'll leave you with is right on over here. It is the MACD, the old MACD, and the MACD is getting a fresh cross to the upside, actually, as of today's weekly, today's weekly closure for, I believe, CME. It will indeed confirm across the upside, assuming that it does remain above $102,700 again on CME, which CME trades at a premium over spot price action. So it's it's a little bit further away, to be fair. But yeah, even on this one, again, you are going to naturally have very likely some bearish divergence, even if this does continue. And the monthly still has me like very long-term concerned as well. These are typically reads that you expect near the end of the cycle. But even with all of this said, with the way that Bitcoin is looking right now, if I'm still going to kind of update my sort of long-term view on this market cycle and where I think in terms of timing things generally end, well, I would say probably the easiest way to look at this would be to actually go back here to the tether dominance chart. And I do believe that when we see tether dominance get back down to these same lows that we saw from March of last year and then January of this year, you're probably about, in terms of time, maybe about 1 month away from the actual high. So obviously that would imply some downside in between there. Again, that can take, another 1, 2, maybe even 3 months. That brings us to July at the earliest, which is where I think is probably the earliest time we see this market top. And then maybe that gives a date of like end of September. So the end of the third quarter for potential, timing of this. So I'd say, again, like middle of July to end of September, something like this with the way that things are looking as of right now. Anyways, all of this is just advice. No, all of this is not financial advice. I'm just a dummy talking on the internet. do whatever the fuck you'd like to do. And there we have it. Let's see what else we got over here. All right. Say hello to Ivan. Hello, Ivan. Are you talking about Ivan on Tech? I haven't spoken with him in a long time, man. I wonder if he's still in Sweden, actually. Sad but hopeful, says VR Emirates. I mean, like, it's not that sad, is it, man? I mean, that would still imply like up. You know, I think most of these things still, you know, they go more up from where they're at right now. It's just, is this going to be like a crazy one? I'm not sure about that. All of this is just advice. All of this is not financial advice. Mike Mad says, just like grandma used to do it, sipping lemonade on the porch. If you know, you know. Actually, I don't know, to be honest. I actually really do not know. Matador MC says, what's up? Lambos for everyone. That's right. They're handing out Lambos at the Lambo store. Just tell them that you're in the cryptocurrency market trading the old meme coins, and they shall immediately give you as collateral for your meme coins a nice new Lamborghini. G-Man says, you said that most indicators, most oscillator indicators are in a hotspot, but all my volatility-based indicators on log returns show strength. Can oscillator expend in the critical zone for an expected time? Yeah, of course. I mean, they can spend some time in the critical zone, like we're seeing with the daily for Bitcoin here as well. You know, it's been in the critical zone ever since when? April 19th. You know, it can spend some time in there. We've seen this in the past as well. This last one from the November rally lasted how long? It lasted 18 days. I'm curious how much we've seen thus far on this one. 19 days, actually a little bit longer. Huh. I wonder if this is the longest one. We see this one over here from the beginning of 2024. This was 45 days, so it's significantly longer. We got this one over here. It is 26 days. So yeah, you know, it can spend more time in there. It's not unheard of or anything like this, but it does make me pause for, you know, a significantly prolonged market cycle. And then this one over here, this is actually almost 4 weeks right there. Yeah. So again, you know, it's been in there for a long time. Yes. Can probably stay, you know, maybe another week max, I'd say. Ethereum finally popped that Viagra. Yeah, I thought I was going fucking crazy on Ethereum. It's like, okay, this thing has to go into 2000. Like, it really does have to. There is no other way for this one to go. No, of course not. Anything's possible, but it's like, Jesus, man. And there you have it. A nice big old green dildo in my face. Should at least get to 2,700 or so. And what would that imply for PA? You mean like when it comes down? Well, at that point, I'd be expecting at least a correction. I mean, we didn't really talk about corrective targets in the video, potential corrective targets, because we're not even in the correction yet. I think we're in the end stages of this move, but you know, I think the obvious area is going to be basically the lows of this last consolidation, like low 90s. I don't think Bitcoin's going to go back down into the 80s before the cycle's over. So yeah. But we shall see. We shall see. Vitalik has been sniffing all that glue. So I hear. ETH acting a bit mad. Did one of the kings impregnate his girlfriend or something? We may never know the true answer to this. We may never know. Let's see, has Elsa compiled any? Oh shit, I just realized I missed like a ton of super chats. Okay, my apologies, guys. All right, Anthony J is looking at MOG. Let's look at MOG. This is another 2024 highly esteemed meme coin. It's like, yeah, it's probably got some upside here. I imagine it's at least going to hit the 200 simple, and that's like decently higher. It's another like almost 50% move. But do I think it's going to go back above these prior all-time highs? No. I mean, shit, you know, it could do something like this. It'd be a very impressive move, but would still be a massive bull trap long term. So that's really what I want to be defensive against on a lot of these things. In this case, I do think that this one very likely will go higher, you know, at least another like 40, 50%. Who knows how long that takes, but yeah, it doesn't do anything for the long term. That's the problem. Like, it doesn't really do anything for the long-term trend. So this is just your first bounce after the blow off top. So they're tradable for sure, but goddamn, man, Got to be careful with that. Don't want to get married to shit like that. How further down the critical zone can the stochastic go? It's just around the 80 level, if that's what you mean. But right now it's actually moving up, so that's not going to be happening at least for a few days. At least for a few days. Never doubt Bull Jesus. Bull Jesus has indeed come to be the savior. River Plate, Las Vegas says buy in May and go away. Yeah, I mean that's really what it seems like it might be this time. Perhaps this time is indeed different. I mean, to be fair, if you do go over May statistics, it's not a given that you just sell in May and then go away. That's actually only happened half of the time where that's actually worked out like decently. Let's bet he burnt all that dough with cheap hosts, so he needs to top up, hence putting on an actual show after ages. Are you talking about Vitalik? All right, let's see. We got the next one. Jogan, he's looking at PP in the near term. Let's look at some PP action over here. Get some PP action going. It's almost like the exact same chart as what we just looked at. I do think that it's going to go higher, at least to the 200 simple. I think most of all shitcoins should at least get to there on a bull trap bounce. I think that this one could even trade a little bit higher. But if you're just specifically asking about the short term, this one continues very likely from here. I think it's got a little bit more of a drive on this move, maybe towards. God damn it, where's my box? I'm going to get my blue box of peace out over here. Something like this. Somewhere into this blue box territory. And then probably plays out a bit of a short-term pullback. But, these are strong moves. Yeah. Higher term timeframes, I'll say continuation. Lower term timeframes, it just corrected right here and it ate up that correction nearly immediately. So I'd be going off of the higher term timeframes in this case. Yeah, I think it's going to get somewhere around here at least. Anyways, is my PP okay? Your PP is good in the short term. I think most things probably are going to be that way as well. Bless you, sir. Nim says, OM, please. Is this the one that rugged to fucking hell? Even this thing, I bet, is bouncing. No, it ain't. That ain't no bounce. that is a fucking... it's not a dead cat bounce, just a rock in the ocean. That's what it is. Let's go to maybe log scale here just to make sense of this chart. And let's go over... it doesn't really matter what fucking tentacles look like on something like this, right? These things, just like Luna, back in 2022, they do get their bounces, yes, but that's a really difficult game to play. Who knows what the fuck happened over here? I'm sure there was some sort of, fundamental issue to cause such a move like this, but just remember, this is the real chart. Like, even if it does bounce, it could bounce all the way up to like $1.5. Shit, I don't think it's bouncing up to $1.5. Okay, so let me be a little more realistic. Maybe it could bounce up to like 80 cents if things get really crazy, but that's just because the rest of the market is bouncing, not because this thing is like doing anything. You're better off not fucking trying to play Russian roulette on something like this. Like, I don't trust it at all. Shit. Doesn't really matter what indicators say on something like this. I playing with fucking fire there. I don't think there's any edge in indicators, honestly, on this one. Jonathan Goya says PP daily. We literally just looked at that, so all good. Lenny says, sir, OPUSD might be a good newish coin. All right, I'll bite. What would be a good newish coin? For optimism, I would agree on your thesis about no new all-time highs and just a retrace. I'm thinking about $3. Thesis. It sounds so formal when people say thesis. Yeah. I don't think that this thing is going to be trading above all-time highs, but I do think it could easily bounce above like $1.5. But I'd have a hard time seeing it get back above this December 2024 high. So I'd say anything around here is probably fair game. This is like end of market cycle type stuff. Okay, maybe a little bit higher than that. So let's say between like $1.5 to $2, I think is like the high probability area. But getting back above this December high, I think is unlikely anytime soon. Yeah, but like most things, this thing is putting in a low here. Certainly not the strongest of the shitcoins though, because the strongest ones are actually have already put in like some pretty decent rallies, but even this one's very likely going to join as well, at least somewhere around here. But again, that can take some time. I imagine this one will probably be one of the latest movers or among the late movers. Anyways, Pisa says, good morning to you, sir. Could you please take a look at XRP? Actually, I've not even looked at it once today. Let's see. Where is my XRPP? There we go. 232. We were looking for a bounce off the 200 simple, but I was looking for that bounce to fail, to be fair. Is this one going to finally go for the 50% and 618 level right here? Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Monthly is still holding in there, still holding above all major moving averages. If it can reclaim like 275 by the end of this month, I'd actually be bullish on this one for making new all-time highs. But until then, I do think you probably at least tag somewhere around $2.50, maybe even closer to 270. But I need to see above 275 by end of month before I just blindly call this one to new all-time highs. But again, that's a decent percentage-wise bounce even from here. So fair enough, with significant potential for more again if that one does follow through. I'd imagine at that point you probably see Bitcoin above probably above $110,000. So yeah, a rising tide lifts all ships as always. Anima says, hello, Sir Krown. How's my salami doing short term? All right, let's check out Solana's short term. First, actually, I want to start off with the higher term timeframes. We've been looking for this one to have a big bounce as well, somewhere around 180 to 200. I think it's in the process of doing that at the moment. Can still take, multiple weeks to get there, obviously, but I do think that this is the move that takes it there. As far as the short term, you just have you basically have a bullish engulfing on the 4-hour time frame right here. I think you got a little bit more on this current push before a corrected move, maybe moves up to like 170, maybe it even does get to 180 on this move. Actually, yeah, I mean, why not 170 to 180, and then plays out a bit of a short-term pullback from there. Yeah, but if you're talking about like super, super short term, let's go to the hourly for that, I suppose. Just want to see some of these oscillators pop up in there. I mean, you're getting a lot of drives of bearish divergence here on even the hourly. So it's like, do you pull back down first to low 160s and then try that move? Do you just go from here? I think the lower term timeframes on this one are actually more difficult than the higher term timeframes. The higher term timeframes look pretty conclusive to me. We're finally getting that move to 180 to $200. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I'd say the same thing about this thing as I say about most everything else that we've seen. I just have a really hard time seeing this one go back above those January highs. I'd be happy to be wrong about that one though. Anyways, Jonathan Goya says Trump daily. All right. Is this one pumping too? It's definitely a good sign. Well, it is putting in at least something resembling a low there. Yeah, you got a higher low right here as well. Momentum turning back up. Should at least tag this prior high from late April, like 16-ish bucks, something like that. But I don't know, man. I don't want to be the person calling for this one to put in like a real rally. It's just this one says caution all over it from like a fundamental perspective and then also just like a charting perspective. But I mean, if it does reclaim this high from late April, I guess $20 is the next area of interest. But for fuck's sake, man. Yeah. Not the one that I want to be putting all my eggs into. Anyways, VR Emirates says, thanks for the trial on Teachable, learning stuff. Fuck yeah, man. Which one did you take a trial for? We've been getting a lot of really, really, really good feedback with, of course, the price action pivots indicator, which is actually very, very new. In fact, I mean, shit, man, I think this past couple of weeks has proved its validity, at least to me, because it's the one thing that's been saying, hey, I know you want to be looking for a pullback, but for fuck's sake, don't look for an actionable pullback until this thing gets violated. So yeah, keeping me honest at least. Anyways, that one's been getting a lot of good feedback. Quantum wave bands, especially as well. I think that one's also beginner friendly too. Quant Prime, definitely not beginner friendly, I would say. That's really for more advanced people, but for the people who do get it, like, it's certainly a lot more powerful. Other than that, oh, and then we have, of course, Caretaker's indicators, full suite. But again, a lot of these ones are more advanced, I'd say, like the HPDR. If you do want to use something like the RSI, that is also, very, very cool as well. But see, HPDR is the one that I really love from that package. Anyways, let's see what else we got over here. Just going to read through some of these comments, I suppose. What project do you think is very down but can move up significantly? I have no idea, man. I don't really spend my time looking at shitcoins except for on these streams, so I can't. I wouldn't be able to tell you well. But if I could give like just some general guidelines, I would look for one of the newer shitcoins, not one that was around during prior cycles. And I actually would not go with the ones that are like super down bad. I would go with the ones that are already showing promising rallies, because those ones are likely going to rally even more than the super down bad ones. It's a really big fallacy of mine to think that the super down bad ones, like, down 90 or 70, 80, 90%, are just going to be playing catch up. I mean, yes, they do get their moves. But it's usually at the very, very end. And by that time, the ones that were showing a little bit more promise have already moved significantly more in your favor. So if you're thinking in terms of opportunity costs, I don't think it's the wisest way to be looking at things. VR Emmett says, I went with Quant Prime. Oh, nice, man. I'm glad to hear that you're having a good experience with that. I do happen to know that you've also been in this community for a long time as well, so I assume that you're probably more advanced, which is the kind of person who's going to do really, really well in that. Again, if you're newer, if you're a beginner, Quant Prime is just going to be fucking over your head and probably more of a headache than a help, to be just to be 100% honest. But if you got a bit of experience, if you know your way around, especially TradingView, you're going to do really fucking well with that. All right. Lady Jojo says, you would only say London is great if you don't live there. LOL, the whole of the UK is finished now. Yeah. I've heard this statement a million times before, I swear. Andor must be from Hungary. I actually lived in Hungary for one summer once. The forint, is that what they call the currency there? I think it's a Hungarian forint. It's like Monopoly money. It's like $20. It's like fucking 6,000 forint, probably way more now, actually. Anyways, sorry. Back on track here. Can you take a look at Oklo 4 in 1 hour? All right. Oklo. Okay, this is this is an actual stock. Okay, nice. All right, an actual stonk over here. Okay, very bizarre looking over the long term. If we go to the 4 hour specifically, let's go to the 1 and the 4. Overall, it's switching into an uptrend, but I do think you get a little bit more of a short-term pullback, maybe to like 26 and a quarter. I don't know if that's relevant to you. And I do think you're also going to get one more move towards about 29 and a quarter. If you really are just short term, I think that's probably the most relevant for you. Is it actually going to break out above 29 and a quarter though? That's a real question, because that has been what's holding this thing in for a good amount of time now. So I wouldn't feel super confident on the lower term timeframes. I would feel a lot more confident on the higher term timeframes. And if I had to call it on the higher term timeframes, I actually do think that it comes back down. Yeah. But a difficult one. It plays very, very bizarrely. Like very, very short term, does it come down for another higher low around 26 and a quarter? Probably, yeah. Does it rally from there to 29 and a quarter again? Probably, yeah. But these are just range plays. It doesn't really, not looking for a breakout here. Not necessarily looking for a breakdown either. Price action pivot says to be bullish on the hourly as long as you're above 25.70. So that would be a good pivot for the very, very short term. If you do lose that pivot, I guess that would be my indication for a short term deeper correction. Let's say around 23 and 3/4, something like that. Super Googly Lee says, is Ethereum a super down bad one? I mean, it is super down bad, to be fair, but let's put that into percentage terms. I mean, obviously it's not as down bad as most like super shit coins, right? This one's down about 66.25%, which is bad. Don't get me wrong. Like that is bad, but it's a different category than something that's down like 80% or 90%, for example. And also this one does have more price action history. And, at least for now, it still has continued to make higher lows from cycle to cycle. It has not made higher highs from cycle to cycle, but it has made higher lows. So now I wouldn't say it's in that category, despite all of the jokes that we like to make at Ethereum's expense. No, I could, at least as of right now, I cannot put it in that category. Anyways, Kay on YouTube says, please look at Super. Man, I saw that one earlier. It was rallying to the fucking heavens, wasn't it? Holy shit, it's continuing to rally to the heavens. Jesus, man. Last I looked at this, it was like 66, 70 cents, something like that. Let me take a sip of this water, then we'll talk about it. If you spam, I bonk. That's right. El Satoshi always laying down the law. Hey, have a good one, Mr. Peter. Have a good one, man. Good to see you as always. As far as super goes, I've been saying the same thing on this one as I have on many of these highly esteemed altcoins. They're looking for big bounces. I do think that this one still bounces above $1 at least. I mean, shit, man, it's going to bounce well above $1, honestly. Tentatively, I'd be looking somewhere between 120 to 130. Where's the daily 200? That's also a pretty obvious target. Oh, that is at $1. So I do think that it will gun for $1 and then pull back, but I don't think that pullback's going to be a collapse. I think that it does continue from there. This thing could easily get up to 130, 140-ish region. That's where things start to get a little bit more difficult, in my opinion, because it's like, what does the timing of that look like? Where is Bitcoin if and when that happens? That's where I'm like, maybe that's the time. Anyways, Ricardo van der Noort says, hello, Krown. What's up, man? Pengu on the daily. One of the newer turts from the sewer of degeneracy. Okay. I have to admit, it is definitely new. So that actually could be a good thing in, counting in his favor at this point. Maybe Binance is one to go to. Yeah. See, the nice thing about being a newer shitcoin from January of this year is that you just don't have the dastardly history that is available on most of these things. Now, from high to low, it is down 92%, but it is having, as you can see, a pretty impressive rally here already from the lows. Let's see exactly how much it has been from low to high, over 350%. You're coming into your first area where you'd be expecting a little bit of a short-term pullback, but I don't think that short-term pullback is going to be like a fucking reversal. I do think that this one, again, assuming Bitcoin can kind of keep it up here, I do think that it gets somewhere into this region, like 2.25 to 2.5 cent. That's where I'd kind of be looking for on a very likely reversal, at least a correction from there. In my opinion, very likely a reversal. But that is a 550% move from the low. So is that tradable? Yeah, of course that's tradable. Let's go down to the lower term timeframes. Yeah, looking weird here, but overall, I think that is going to continue. If you're looking for short-term pullbacks, that's fine. But I don't think that I don't think it's going to be reversing in the short term. I do think that you get somewhere up here. Who knows how long it takes? This is more of a long-term thing, but I would say this is a good example of a new shitcoin that can move a lot and already is moving a lot as well. Compare this with like prior cycle shitcoins that are getting decent bounces, but not like this. Not like this. I mean, this one's gone X's rather than percentages. 350%. 350. Let's see. What else we got? Steve Dude, yeah, on Twitter says, the weirdest things about this rally, Dixie gaining 10-year and 30-year too. I thought these would be dropping with the rally too. Yeah, and if you remember, when Dixie was rallying, we also saw Bitcoin rally as well earlier this year. It's one of those reasons why I say, like, we can look at that stuff, but it's never going to be primary. It's always best to look at the asset at hand that you actually want to trade. Yeah, Dixie's had a nice, decent bounce right here, for sure. Probably bounces even more as well, maybe after a short-term pullback, but time shall tell. Time shall tell. I don't mind if Dixie bounces, if Bitcoin bounces as well. Anyways, Anti-Pro says, I short-term Bitcoin at $100,000 since FOMC's speech didn't come out well. Fair enough. Obviously, it's going to be an underwater position right now, but of course, take trade. I always love it when a trade idea goes south that you spoke about on social media, and then it's like, what, you don't expect that things sometimes don't work out? Like, really? Of course, man. It's just a trade idea. You got to take your chances when you got your edge. Now, I don't know exactly what your edge was there. If you're just going off of like the FOMC meeting, fair enough. Not my edge for sure, but at least you had your setup. At least you had your reasons, and let the chips fall where they may, I suppose. Anyways, Igni Misu on Twitter says, bro, could you please check out M87? M87. This one sounds familiar, but let's see. Yeah, weird looking one, but again, to give it its credit, this is a shitcoin that has not made new lows with the rest of the market. And actually, for all intents and purposes, like decently strong. Look, it would be a super easy call if this thing trades above last week's high to say that it's going to be trading up like significantly from there. You know, maybe another like 50% move if that happens, like somewhere around here, 40 to 50% move. Let's see what a daily looks like. Weird. Yeah, weird. Reminds me of that fucking Snow White girl. But, you know, it does look weird. It does. It really does. But that's just the way that some of these shitcoins look like. Look, if you close above April the 23rd high, if you close above there, or even April the 29th, I mean, it's basically the same thing. If you close above there on a daily, yeah, I think that you are going to get that, you know, 30 to 50% move from there. Is it going to make new highs? That I wouldn't feel too comfortable saying, but you know, if there is a shitcoin that could make new highs alongside Bitcoin, this would be an example of one, just for the simple fact that it has continued to make new higher lows this whole cycle, whereas most shitcoins have not. They have not at all, in fact. Litecoin is going to $100. I read that as $1,000 actually. I'm curious. Let's see. What does Light Derp look like? It probably does go to at least 100. I figure a little bit more as well. Probably the least interesting of the high market cap coins, in my opinion. But you know, even this thing gets to rally as well, I suppose. Yeah. I wonder what Monero's doing, actually. Monero is one that was popping off not so long ago. Has it held that move? Yeah, this one should follow through. Really should. Yeah, this is in my, like, if you want to go with the prior cycle shitcoins, you know, of the high market cap variety, I would choose Monero over Litecoin, to be honest. They got very similar charts in that they haven't really done much since 2018, but this one, pound for pound, looks a little bit better. Everything to all-time high now, says Brody. Maybe some of the high market cap coins. The good actors, perhaps, yes. Make that 1,000. Hyperliquid to 800. I feel like we're just calling out random numbers now. I mean, it's at $24, so it's getting close, or it's closer than it was yesterday. But I think you still got some time more to go. But this one is actually, to be fair, having a really good response again for a newer shitcoin. It is. This could be the kind of shitcoin that does make new highs if Bitcoin makes new highs. I could definitely see that. Again, I'd say that for maybe like less than 1% of shitcoins that we look at. But this thing, yeah, I mean, it's acting well. And it just doesn't have that super nasty history that we see on most of these shitcoins to kind of chew through as well. Bonk, you want to look at some bonk action? We can do some bonk action over here. Bonk versus the Derper. Yeah, I mean, like most shitcoins, like most things, it's going to be moving to the upside here, you know. If it even just trades above last week's high, which I think is very, very likely, I do think that you'll get another like 40 to 50% move. I think a lot of these things, even the shittiest of shitcoins, are probably setting up for something relatively similar to that. But I want to be, oh God, I want to be really, 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 really careful with my statements just because of experiences in past cycles. Look, just because I'm saying this one's very likely to move to the upside here, as we've been saying for most of these shitcoins, I don't think it's going to be making new all-time highs. Like, I really don't think it is, or really anywhere near that. But, you know, a 50% move is still super fucking impressive. Ivan is saying the banana phase is now, says Louis Green. Or I'm guessing you mean Ivan on tech. Fair enough. I mean, he's entitled to his opinions. I think this is the end stage of this market cycle, basically. Hope everyone has been training for this moon mission. How do you train for it? To be honest, man, I'm sizing down and I'm risking down at this point. I'm not risking up. The way that I see it again is that, you know, we're in the tail end of a bull market. There are still gains to be made, I suppose. It is looking more and more like Bitcoin will move up to, you know, 120 or so. But I don't want to be aggressive during these times. I want to be protective of the gains from earlier this cycle. That was the time to be aggressive, in my opinion. Anyways, AIOZ for the original. Let's check out this one. This one used to pop up a lot, I think. I'm going to guess it's probably looking like most shitcoins, right? Yeah. But at least it does hold higher lows from the past couple of years. So there's that at least. Is this thing going to move up significantly from here? I mean, again, percentage wise, yeah, it could easily move up another 50% to, 60-ish, maybe even 70 cents, something like this. But do I think it's going to be taking out this prior high at 130 or 135? No, I really don't. At least not during this cycle. Let's see. In the short term, obviously you want to see a little bit of a breakout above 49. I think it is more of a formality, to be honest. I do think you will get up, at least to 60 cents, maybe even 70 cents, come back to it after that and check it out. But, again, that's a big fucking move. That's 50% plus. Analysis my cheeks. What kind of cheeks you got, sir? What else? Hype and Altcoin barbell for generational wealth. That does seem to be the strategy for many people I've seen. Many people seem to really be on those two specifically. Let's see, Prime for Austin Stroop. All right, let's look at Prime. I think I'm pretty sure this is a shitcoin, but I'm not actually sure. Maybe not Coinbase. Maybe Gate.io will have the history. Yeah, this is garbage. But again, even the garbage will rally near the end stages of these market cycles. So, I think best case scenario, you get a rally to like $8 or $9. Again, this could take like a decent amount of time to happen. I think at least you'll get to about 5.5 or so. 7.5 would be my next area of interest above that. And then, yeah, anywhere around like $9-ish, I'd be saying, this looks like a good place to send this one back to hell. Yeah. But overall, most of these things are setting up for big, nice bounces. I think this is the time when, especially I in the past have gotten carried away with getting too bullish during these times. So that's why I really want to temper my own statements by saying, yeah, I think there's some upside here, but I don't want to get carried away talking about new highs and shit like this for most of these shit coins. 99% of them probably not going to be doing that. Good morning, Mr. Gazwar Trading. Good morning, sir. Some years I don't get you live. Yeah, it is what it is, man. But hopefully we'll be changing time zones relatively soon, and then we can get the Americans back involved. 9-5 says ASM stock looking great. What do you think? Well, let's check it out. I'm glad that you specified it is indeed a stonk. So this is some sort of silver and gold miner. Yeah, I'd agree. It does have the reversal here. We do have some higher lows, bullish price action pivot. It might spend a little bit of time where it's at right now, just kind of battling around these prior highs here. But I do think that this one continues probably to like $3.50 or so. Long term, it's hard to love, but I do think that this move does look like a legitimate reversal in progress. You are getting a change of behavior over here. So that's why I do say probably $3.50, maybe even $4. But keep in mind, this is a quarterly. I mean, that can take a long time to happen. That can take, 6 to 9 months to happen. So yeah. Let's see. The Supra says, good evening, Sir Krown. Good evening to you, sir. Can you look at STX? Yeah, actually I can. I even have it on my list here. I don't own it or anything like that, but, just because of the idea of it, I want to follow it. I want to watch it. It's like DeFi on Bitcoin, basically, which is honestly something that I would be a big fan of if they can, if they can make it work. It makes a lot of sense. Anyways, as far as charts go, I'd say the same thing, on this one as I have on many of these. This one's already making new highs above those late April highs. I think that this one's at least going to get to like 130 or so. Again, this move can take some time, but the LARP lines here are going to be generally correct. Just this is the upside phase. This is the big bounce phase. To be fair, over the very long term, it does have higher lows, and it hasn't just crashed to all hell. So there is that at least. And the monthly does have a nice massive low dildo in right there as well. So I could see this one even moving up above $1.50, given some time. But there's going to be stops along the way, of course. The first major one I'd be looking at around 130-ish region. That will move down, to be fair. So maybe it comes in closer to like 120, depending upon how long it takes to approach that region. But yeah, I mean, this again, still big fucking move right there. Big fucking move. Razvan says, Sui on the daily. Let's check out Sui. I haven't looked at this one in a couple of days now. $4. This one, similar to the last one, actually, already taken out those late April highs. It is at the 618 fib right here. So it's like, is it going to bust on through on this current move? Maybe it spends a little bit of time going sideways there. But if it does, at that point, have to be looking at $4.50, maybe even 470, somewhere around there. Pretty decent move, but I don't know. Do I want to still hold on to my statement that I don't think SUI is going to make new all-time highs this cycle? Let's see. Let's go to regular scale. Yeah, I still don't think so, actually. But there is potential. I mean, for a newer shitcoin, yeah, it has done pretty well. So actually, maybe I'm wrong about this one. But yeah, next major area of interest upon upside continuation, somewhere around 4.5, let's say. All right. What if SPY and TradFi rolls over here? That's a really good question, man. Because this is kind of the area that you'd be looking for something like SPY to roll over at. You're right around that white 200 simple on the daily. Yeah, it might spike a little bit higher than there, but you're seeing extremes on daily volatility. This is usually a pullback area, especially when you have like a catastrophic fall like this. The first move towards your 200 simple is a sell. I'll show you some history on this one. We have this past market cycle, 2022, obviously. You can see the rallies, even in some cases, got above the 200 simple, but these were good selling areas as long as this one was kind of maintaining a downward slope. And it took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 tries for it to really reclaim it. This one over here, first rally gets rejected, comes down. Yes, it does trade above it during this time. It's not gonna be perfect or anything like that, but it gives you a decent idea of kind of where you're at. Same thing over here. I could count this as 1, 2, 3 rejections of the 200 simple. Yes, it got a little bit higher. That's okay. Traditional markets, it's a lot less technically perfect than we see in Bitcoin, especially. This one over here from 2015, same shit, same damn thing, putting your highs right around there. So that's kind of where you expect your bull traps in traditional markets. We did already see one that was, of course, in late March and did lead towards the current lows. But, when you say traditional markets rolling over, so I'm just running with a hypothetical here. Like, let's say SPY in the next week rolls over, comes back down below, my trigger would be 55.80. At that point, I do think that you're in for a decent corrected move back down to like 5,300 or something at least. Does that affect Bitcoin? I would imagine Bitcoin would also play at a pullback, but probably not as bad as SPY because Bitcoin has just been stronger in the short term. I mean, even if we go to futures, which are trading right now, they're not having the same move that Bitcoin has already had. Now, again, it doesn't mean that it can't come later, but Bitcoin is effectively at all-time highs. SPY is well below all-time highs. And this is like a big deal for traditional markets to be, 7%, 7.5% off of those all-time highs. Like that's a big move for SPY. So I would say Bitcoin probably comes down as well, but I don't think either of them are making new lows below the April lows. Maybe that means Bitcoin to like low 90s if that were to happen. Maybe that means SPY to like I said, 5,300 at least if that happens. But yeah, to me, it seems very obvious that Bitcoin is just acting better. It's just acting better, man. Sell in May, brothel routine in play. Fuck yeah, man. We already looked at SUI. It's going to be beautiful. This is like sell in May and go fishing is in play. I mean, I was thinking about that as well. Like, probably should sell at least some during this month. I mean, shit is back above 6 digits. Like, got to take some profits. But as I said, I think it's going to spike these highs once again first. Maybe even all the way to 110. Tone from Chicago. I used to live in Chicago myself. Does the 9-month cycle theory have credence? I don't know what the 9-month cycle theory is, so I have no comment. Tweetaff says, I spy manic bankers. About what? Anyways, Cornish Crypto UK, what's up, man? Cardano, yeah. Surprised this one hasn't popped up in a while. What is this one doing? It's rallying like everything else, right around the daily 200 simple, but I do think it's going to bust on through. This would be another good example of a prior cycle shitcoin that, does actually have a chance here. I don't know if it's going to I don't think it's going to take out the 2021 highs, but I do think that it could actually trade above these highs. which would be a very, very nice move. But you're seeing weekly momentum turn back up. It's reclaimed all major moving averages on the weekly as well. I think that this one moves up decently, probably even tags this high again from early March. From there, I'd probably want to come back to see it. But yeah, as it stands right now, I mean, this one actually, maybe I regret saying this later, but this one actually is setting up okay. At least for a decent move here. All right. Iker says, I'll be boxing a little more and play the chart probably way better than staring at those stinky linky charts, Let's actually look at some link action. I haven't looked at link in a long time as well. Yeah, man, it's a good time to probably invest elsewhere. Invest in your health. Anyways, link. Yeah, same thing here as well. This one obviously a better chart than Cardano, but I do think that this one's, it's going to probably move up to at least $20 from here. I think this is another one that could take out the January highs or the late 2024 highs. I wouldn't feel very confident saying it's going to take out all-time highs, but if this thing got to move to like 35 or $40, that would look pretty good to me. Cryptos 11 says, it is always better to sell in May. Having said that, when I say it, that means the market will boom against the trend. That's actually not exactly a truthful statement. When you go through all the past Mays, only 7 out of 14, which is 50%, have actually been, genuinely a good time to sell, where price action came down significantly from there. Not necessarily meaning a bear market, but coming down significantly from there. So it is a coin flip. Like the sell in May thing, it's not. Yeah, it's. I don't think it's as easy as that, but I would like to take some off the table in May on this rally. Not everything, of course, but definitely some. Crypto's living. Thank you for your service. It says Bascal Brosen. Where am I? I feel like I'm missing something here. Ryan says, what about Jupiter? Actually deleted that one from my list, but I imagine it's probably having a pretty decent bounce at this point. Let's see, there's got to be a long-running chart on this one, maybe MEX, the MEX exchange. Yeah, I think at least you're going to get towards 60-ish cents. It's not a humongous move from where it's at right now. Kind of a bit of a laggard. I think it will trade higher than there as well. Eyes fucking itching. There's so much allergies here in Finland. I actually do think it'll get back up around like 85-ish cents, something like that. Again, it can take some time. This is a weekly look after all, but it's in a bounce phase like most things are. Yeah, at least 60 cents, and I think it could easily extend to like 85 cents, something like that. Again, another one that I don't think is going to be taking up these highs from, what was it, earlier this year? Or sorry, last year actually. But yeah. All right. A few more of these sips. Neodag says, Caspa, please. All right. Look at Caspa. What's Caspa doing? Another one that was very popular long ago and not so popular anymore. I wonder why. All right. This is regular chart already. Yeah, like most of them, it's going to be having a big bounce here. I really do think. I think that this thing could trade back to, somewhere between 12 to 14 cents. But do I think it's going to get back above your January swing high right here? Probably not. Just to shoot it straight. Yeah. But again, these are like big percentage moves that can happen even from where they're at right now. I mean, it might even tag that high. That's nearly a 50% move. What about a daily? Yeah. Next area of interest to the upside is going to be about 11 cents. So this current rally probably goes, I mean, it already has been consolidating here, to be fair, so maybe it does break through. But if you do start to see closures above there, yeah, 14-ish, give or take. Anti-process. So moral of the story, no coins is going to their all-time high, except very few, and I mean very, very few. I that's my opinion, yeah. I think less than 1% of this market, if you're looking at the dearth of fucking hundreds of thousands of coins out there in the world, less than 1% of them are going to be making new highs. And I think the ones that are going to be making new highs, they're probably already somewhat close to their current all-time high, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin looks like it wants to do it. H-bar for Hamish, definitely Scottish. Let's see. This one also was a little bit more popular in the past year, and very similar chart in the short term to, I think it was Cardano. Yeah, even in the long term as well, like very, very similar. Look, this one's going higher. Like you got a bullish engulfing dildo on the weekly, you got momentum to the upside. Volatility's rising as well. I think you're going to move up to whatever this high was here from March of this year. Again, it can take some time. This is a weekly and a monthly look, but these things are in rally mode right now. So that would be around like 30 cents or so. I'd want to come back to it after that. But the monthly reversal looks real. Price action pivot switched to a bullish pivot over here. You got a higher high and you got a higher low again. Yeah, I think that this thing this thing actually could be one that does maybe not make a new high above this high, but like get close to those prior all-time highs. It's possible. It's been acting well. And I think that this is one of those Trump coins as well, something like that. Ambitious Rav says the Pope passed away and fake World War III, but markets are pumping. I don't know if obviously the Pope matters to a lot of people, but I don't know if his death is going to matter that much for markets, man. I would wonder what the thesis is there. Is he like a big trader or something? Does the Pope have big positions in the crypto markets? I would assume no. Anyways. Oh, there's got to be a Pope coin. Oh my God, Pope coin is the most obvious meme coin that's going to do well. Has anyone made this thing yet? Let's see. Pope. Holy shit, of course. Oh my God, and it's like 4 days old. It really is the Pope coin. And he's rising from the ashes, just like Jesus. Holy shit, this is great. This is amazing. This is the one that's going to make you a believer. It's only on Poloniex. Like, how is that possible? You know that you're in the deepest of the shitcoin drawer when you are only listed on Poloniex. That is amazing. All right. The Catholic Church is the largest private landowner in the world. I mean, yeah, largest private landowner in the world. It's real estate, sir. But they got some holdings, I'm sure. All right. Lee Harlane says he's got a nice long message here. He says, Krown, have you heard about the act with Saudi Arabia getting passed next week? Trump flying there today to finalize deal for stablecoins and vote next Thursday. I know that there is something going on with Saudi Arabia no. I saw Trump in Dubai recently. I didn't know about Saudi Arabia, but sure. The Saudis are maybe finally buying. That was the narrative many moons ago. Let's see. Jan Schock says Tau on Mexi. Let's check it out. This one also used to be a very popular shitcoin. But what this one be doing now? Yeah, I think that this one can. Okay, actually quite impressive. I think that it will actually hit this prior high here at $500. I believe we spoke about this. I'm almost confident that we saw it a few weeks ago. Yeah. Basically this LARP line, but except without this next downside move. I think that it actually moves up from here. So the LARP line directionally correct, but I do think it's going to move up more first before it has that next correction and then come back to it after that. But yeah, it's retested that prior macro low. You get a pity bounce from there. This one, a very big pity bounce, no doubt about that. So I do think that you'll hit at least like $500, but pull back somewhere between like 500 to 550, I'd imagine. And then I'd want to come back to it after that and see if I think that it's more likely to continue up or not. This one potentially could make new high. I mean, it doesn't look as shitty as most shitcoins. Didn't also drop off as terribly as most shitcoins as well. So there is that. Yeah. A little bit on the better side of the shitcoin drawer, I suppose. Brody says, total 3 about to rip. Let's see. And then we'll get to Ave from Tone. Total 3. Okay, so this is all of the total market cap except for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and dollar derivatives. Yeah, I think that this one's going to move up about 950 billion. Maybe it just goes for $1 trillion at that point. But do I think that this one's going to make new highs? I really don't, honestly. I might end up eating those words big time, but I don't know, man. Big bounce here, yes. So upside in the short term, but just not confident on that long term, man. I'm really not. Tone from Chicago says, thoughts on Aave, new all-time high. All right. So the question is, not just the thoughts on it, but is it going to make new all-time high? I don't think so, man. No. That's 2021. It is, let's see, how far away? About 200% or more than 200% move away from that all-time high. I do think that you do move up more to the upside from where it's currently at. I think, over this next month or two, it's going to reach up to like 270, maybe even 300. something like that. But yeah, I'd want to come back to it after that. If it can trade back above your January/December 2024 highs, okay, sure. I guess at that point, it's not terrible just because it does, again, have these higher lows from cycle to cycle. In fact, if you put it on log scale, it's like much higher lows, which is a good sign. But I'd probably take this one step at a time. I do think it moves to the upside in the short term. This one actually could have potential to retest that prior all-time high. Actually, I do think it's possible, but I want to see it definitely once again after it gets to like $300. I want to see what it does from there, like how deep of a pullback does it get, if at all. That would massively help me. Ambitious Rav says Trump coin is bullish to me. Insider trader info at the dinner this month. Fair enough. Fair. Again, not my game, but more power to you, Mom. GTX says Giga Chad, symbol Giga. Okay. Very cool name. Yeah, another one that I don't think is going to be getting anywhere near those prior all-time highs, man. But can it put in a nice upside move from here? Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing even trade up like 4 to 5 cents, honestly, in the coming month or two. Like most things are going to be putting in some pretty impressive and big moves here. Just again, I really want to be careful with my statements just because I think it's going to be going up decently in the short/medium term. Don't think it's going to be taken out this high. But, just to put numbers on this, I mean, how big of a move is that from where it's currently at? Yeah, it's like 2x move, somewhere around there. Definitely possible, in the coming month or two. Hugo E says, can you check out Uni? Holy shit, man. I wonder what this one's going to look like. I haven't looked at this one since like 2022, I think. Uniswap, yeah, not getting to those prior all-time highs, but you're probably going to have a really, really nice bounce here. I think at least you get up to $9-10, somewhere around there. I'd want to see it again after that, but yeah, at least $9 to $10 in in the next month or two, something like this. Yeah, other higher term timeframes say uninteresting, but that's still a big move from where it's at right now. All right, what else we got? We got RVXA says Link. We literally just looked at that one actually. Must be a late comer here. I do think in the short term it's going to move to the upside, but I would not be calling a move to 50 plus until it's closing above your December high. If it can do that, okay, fine. Yeah, 50 plus. But until then, I think you got a nice move to the upside here. I think most things do, but I do want to remain a little bit more on the cautious side personally. So yeah, in the short term, I think it's going to get at least above like $20. But one thing before the next, again, I don't want to get too carried away here just because I do think that we are, we're very deep into the cycle. Cody Payant, I appreciate that message, sir. He already covered STX. He was snoozing. Giga Chad has a secret giga vagina, I reckon, all the way deep down inside. A says, can you do a Ponky chart prediction? I will get out my crystal ball and I will look at the Ponky charts. Yeah, I think, again, this one's going to have a big bounce, but is it going to get back above these prior highs? Like, fuck no. The answer is fuck no, in my opinion. 450% move from where it's at right now. But is it going to have a big bounce here? Maybe to like somewhere between a quarter and shit. I mean, maybe it could be a lot more than that, honestly. I think this one will bounce somewhere between 27 cents to maybe even as much as 40 cents, which is a fucking gigantic move from where it's at right now. But it's still not a new high. So I really don't think that that's happening. Ondo for WJSP. Ondo. Sure. No time frames given, so I'm just going to make it up. I'm going to go with my own. Let's see. Weekly. Yeah, I think, again, this one's likely trading to the upside. Probably moving up towards like 120, maybe even 130, something like this. It does have higher lows throughout this cycle, which is good. Most things do not. Do I think it's going to retake this high above 215? Not really, but I do think that it does rally from here, and I do think that it could easily rally to, like I said, somewhere between 120 to 130. is not out of the question at all. In the coming weeks, maybe all the way out to like a month or two. Anyways, Giga Chad, more like Giga Hoax. Well played. What? Giga Chad was a scam? Are you kidding? Right? Can you tell me if the Celtics will win? I haven't watched a game of basketball this season, or for many seasons prior as well. A minute says virtuals. Sure. I think we looked at this one the other day and it was looking pretty good. Yeah. This looks even better now. It looks even better. I think that this one probably still has more on this rally, maybe to like $2.50. This one was a part of the AI narrative, of course, as well. I do have a harder time saying that this one's going to make new highs, but does it find its way somewhere between 2.5 to 3.25? Probably, yeah, on this rally. It's going to be stops along the way as well, of course. Probably one relatively soon, but overall, I think that the rally will extend more. Ondo, didn't we just do that?
Yes.
Yeah, we just did do that. Okay, cool. All right, nice one. Can you look at RLB? Sure, and then we'll look at 0x0 RLB. Holy shit, we are deep inside this live stream right now. I didn't even realize it's 2 hours already. Elsa, do you need to go or?
It's fine.
It's okay. All right. I think that this one is getting ready for a bit of a rally here. It's a hard chart to love, honestly, but you got several drives of divergence on the weekly. Most things are getting a chance to rally right now. This would kind of be a higher low in a way, but I'm not super optimistic about that about this one in comparison to other things that we've seen. I do think that it's very likely it'll at least try somewhere around 10 cents, which is more than 30% move from where it's at right now, like a 40% move. The long term, however, I can't be bullish on this thing for like a long term move, maybe even to new all time highs, by the way, until it's back above your swing high from December, which is like 16.5 cents. If it can trade back above there, yeah, this thing's actually probably going to do like very, very well. But until then, I'll just be looking at short-term upside moves, and I don't know. I'd be more on the defensive side. Again, I think I've explained my sort of personal stance enough here. 0x0. Let's try 0x0. What dis? This one sounds familiar, but nothing's like ringing a bell in my mind. Yeah, again, same thing here. It's like it's got a nice rally ahead of it. I do think, probably going to head up to like 15, 20 cents. Yeah, that's really all that I got to say about that. You got a nice weekly bullish engulfing dildo kind of right in your face right there. So, I'd be expecting next move up. But am I calling this thing back above your December highs? No, I'm not. At least certainly not as of right now. But, I'm guessing with the AI, it's part of the narrative. So if it's part of the narrative, that's usually a good sign. And that is a big move. That is a big move from, 8 cents to 20 cents. I mean, shit. We literally just looked at virtual, sir. Gunleaf has the most commonly asked, completely noob question of all time. 3 coins you should put money in today and sell in June. Look, there's a lot of things that are gonna rally between now and mid to late June. I think just about every chart that we've looked at looks like it wants to bounce quite a fair bit. I don't put money in shitcoins, so I'm the wrong person to ask, because I'd just say, well, I'd say Bitcoin, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin. But of course, if you want bigger gains or the bigger potential for gains, also at the cost of potential bigger losses, then, you could probably pick, 3 of the shitcoins that we've gone through on this stream. Most, if not all of them, are looking like they want to have big bounces from where they're at right now. So I think that you kind of can be that monkey just throwing darts at a board at this point. Yeah, some things are gonna operate better than others, but honestly, man, like 3 different ones, they're all the same, really. You might as well just put it all in one, to be honest. Jimmy Jane says, good morning, Mr. Krown. First time ever making a live. Hell yeah, sir. 3 a.m. my time. Jesus, man. I love it. Did you do some doggy TA yet? Let's see. I actually don't remember. No, I don't think so, actually. I think the LARP lines here are generally going to be correct as well. I still, I've been saying this thing is going to pop up to like at least 25 cents for a while now. I still think the same thing. I think that actually it'll probably go a little bit higher, maybe somewhere between like 25 to 30 cents. Other than that, I'd want to come back to see it because it really is not the worst chart long term. Like, it has these macro cycle higher lows, and this is yet another monthly higher low right here. So it's not, I mean, this is not bearish. So short term, I think it goes up. Medium term, I think it goes up. Long term, let's just wait for those first to play out, perhaps, and then we can get back to it, I guess. What's up, Trevor Q? Yeah, we looked. No, we have not looked at SCI. Hey, how did you get a Bitcoin emoticon in your username? That's cool. SCI. Okay, SCI. All right. Yeah, another shitcoin that I just don't think is like super interesting. But I think I generally stay with the red circles right here. I do think you'll at least get to this red circle, which is like a little bit above 30, like 30 to 35 cents. I think that things could even extend from there as well. My next area of interest would be about 45-ish. But other than that, like, do I think that this thing's going to be going back above your March highs from last year? No. Do I think it's going to be going back above your December highs of last year? Probably not, honestly. But I do think that you'll have a pretty decent rally here. Is that tradable or not is up to you. I would imagine, like 50% to, even 100% move from here, like probably is. Sorry, it's not even 50% move. It's 100% move from here. I think is very, very likely. But yeah. Let's see. IMX for D Jug. All right, we'll look at IMX and then Mara. And then I think we got to shut it off. Oh, it's not even on. It's not even on here. It's not even on there. Wait. What? Oh my God, I just typed in your name and I thought that was a ticker because I'm actually retarded. Yeah, I need to go soon. Is the real answer. All right, let's look at Immutable and then we'll look at Mara and then we'll shut it off. Not super interesting compared to most of the shitcoins that we've seen today. It is having the same sort of bounce in the short term. I do think at least you're going to get to 90 cents. I personally think it'll go higher than that as well, above $1, like a 1.25 to 130. Do I think that you're going to get back above your March of 2024 highs? Probably not. But again, this is a big move. It's a very big move. All right, last one. We shall do it for, because he's been asking many times, Mr. Mig. He's looking at Mara. This is a Bitcoin miner. I think this one would be interesting to look at just because it's different than this endless sea of shitcoins that we've been looking at today. Very interesting to me. Let's go to higher term time frame. I actually think on this one I'm going to say I have no fucking clue. I'm looking for something that's obvious. Like, I want to see something that's super obvious. I really don't know, honestly. I really don't know. It's not even that I could go either way. I don't have a good idea on what this thing's doing right now. I see on the 6 month, yeah, you do have a higher low. You got a lower high as well. So that doesn't really help. I guess the obvious thing is if you can trade back above January 2024 high at 30, what is this, like $33, then that would be quite bullish, and I'd be looking for this thing to maybe retest around like major highs. Hold on, let's go to. Oh Jesus. Okay, hold on. No, this is garbage. All right, this makes it easier. This makes it a lot easier. Yeah, this is garbage. But is he gonna have an upside move in the short term or downside? I would be looking for this one to have a short term upside move, maybe like $16-17. Long term though, do I think it's like having a major reversal back to your 2021 highs? Not my first target, I'll put it that way. Oh, the Palantir stock. All right, we'll talk about Palantir because I love it. Palantir. All right, we'll end on Palantir, I promise. Okay, already trading pre-market at 119. Really good move up yesterday. Like, I want to see this one retrace more because personally, I just want to buy it lower, like closer to $100 or a little bit below $100. And just for full disclosure, I do have positions in this one for the long term, like multiple positions actually. It did pop back up like very aggressively yesterday, back to basically where it closed on earnings. So that is a gap fill. Does it sell back off from there? Like, you got a double top as well. I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm glad that I already have a long-term position in it because I don't know what I'd do in this situation here. Long-term, I think it goes higher. Short-term, does it play out a pullback to $100 or a little bit below $100? I don't know. I certainly wouldn't mind it. I'd like that personally so that I could grab some more, but I'm not going to buy here. I do think it generally goes higher in the long term. In the short term, I really don't know. I really don't know. It's a hard one. Like I said, I'm glad that I already have a position, and that's good enough for me. All right. Anti-Pro says, I'm hesitating to ask you for OLAS. Also, what is your bold prediction? My bold prediction for what? For this market? What are you laughing at? Hey, what's fucking funny over there? Cut it out. No laughing. All right, we'll do one for a cash for Madge, just because I remember this one was actually like really good a while ago. Okay. All right, we really do need to shut it off after this one though. Yeah, I do think that this one probably tries to like $2.50, something like that in the coming weeks. Maybe even a little bit higher towards $2.75, $3. But not my favorite chart of the day. Also not the worst chart as well, to be fair. But yeah, some upside. Most things, pretty much everything we've looked at today, wants at least some upside in the coming weeks, I suspect, in varying degrees of strength and weakness. But like I said, for me, I want to be a lot more conservative during this portion of the market cycle. I don't want to be aggressive. Yes, I do think that these things are going to go up, but I think if you've made a lot of money this cycle, it's better to be protective during these times. And I'll leave you on that note. Elsa's waving in the background because she loves you. I also love you as well.